Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745, and we're playing Black Ice, and as Britain, taking a look at it. And before we get into that, though, hit the subscribe button. We'd love to see you around more the channel, and of course, you can give the video a like, and love to hear your comments. Now, here's an interesting comment, just because we're making this live, so some of the live chat is jumped in on this. And they commenting about, hey, put Mosley in charge or something else, and playing the same thing every time gets boring. Now, I've yet to get bored with World War II. But what are your playing experience? Is Hearts of Iron 4 so boring that you need to change it up to put wacky, have the communists or the fascists in charge in Britain or whatever else? What are your views on it? I'd love to hear why you think you get bored with it. Because to me, I can sit and play World War II strategy games forever. And sometimes play as Germany, sometimes play as Britain, or it's been more than a year now, but one of my playthroughs of Hearts of Iron 3, Germany goes into Poland in early 1940 instead of 39, and for some reason we either I hit the button wrong or whatever, and we were at war with the Soviet Union. So I just went, fuck it, we're holding the line here with France, and Germany, this is early, just kept going from Warsaw, and actually I did defeat the Soviet Union. I just in 1940 just kept pushing. Took a while, but kept pushing. What if? And this is a real what if. What could have happened? Because yes, there was the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, and what if that didn't? That isn't a certainty. Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, Ribbentrop-Molotov, however you want to say it, isn't like always going to happen. Because if you know anything about the pact, and I'm not the greatest expert, but while Ribbentrop was in Moscow, there was a very high-ranking, and talking to Molotov, the foreign minister of the Soviet Union, there was a very high-ranking diplomatic mission that had traveled up and around and whatnot to get to the Soviet Union, of like a British admiral who was there as a diplomat, and a very high-ranking French person. I forget. I've made a mod for the stuff, and I forget the names. But they were simultaneously talking to, again, not the foreign minister, but a very high-ranking foreign person in Leningrad, trying to get the Soviets on the Allies' side, or this is before the war starts, because this is before the invasion of Poland. But they're seeing what happened to Czechoslovakia, and it's trying to get the Soviet Union to be on the side of the Allies instead. And they didn't know. Neither of the team, supposedly, at least to the best of our knowledge, knew about the other. Meaning Molotov did not know that the British were in Leningrad, and definitely, I'm to the best of my understanding, the British and French team did not know about Molotov being down in Moscow. These were going on simultaneously. Stalin wanted permission or agreement, or whatever you want to call it, to be able to take the Baltic states. And I don't know if wanted to be able to take the Baltic states, maybe Finland back, because it had been part of Russia. When we'll call the Allies team was asked about that, they said no way, we won't support any Soviet expansion, and only, I think, support the Soviets going in to help Poland, because this was after Britain had given Poland guarantees of defense. Only after Germany attacks Poland can you go in, but you won't get to take any territory away from Poland. You're just going in to defend Poland, but you can't take any of the Baltic states. Ribbentrop says, yeah, sure, you can have, well, I'm sure they're talking back and forth to Hitler. Well, we'll take Lithuania. You can get Latvia and Estonia. And you can get half of Poland, which includes, well, at least this part. I don't know so much about, but this, and, well, not that, but more down and through here. It includes all of this. You can have all of this. But Germany gets Lithuania. And because of that, and I don't know quite honestly, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't, I just don't know if anything was said at that time about Romanian territory, and I also don't know what the status, I'm pretty sure the status of Finland was also going to be in the Soviet sphere, though Germany does sort of covertly somewhat help the Finns fight off, not sending any troops or anything, but send some material supplies to fight off the Soviets once the Soviet invasion goes badly. So that Finland was, I'm pretty sure, in the Soviet sphere under Molotov Pact. So Germany says yes to this. Well, Britain could have said something different. So this is maybe not quite a coin toss, but these were both going on at the same time. And, had the Allied team been a little more pragmatic, they might have because Stalin doesn't trust either side. I mean, he doesn't trust any of these people out here, but he definitely doesn't trust Hitler. This isn't like, hey, Hitler's going to be my best buddy. No, this is more pragmatic, what we can get out of this. Now, what happens, of course, is Germany does very well very quickly and takes this part of Poland. And they meet up and they have a parade at Brest-Litovsk. There's a famous photos of the parade. It's a small little parade, but there's General Guderian standing next to some Soviet general on the stands there. This happens. So this is where they meet up. Well, Germany doesn't withdraw from this part of Poland. Livonia, or whatever this is in English normally. That is in Soviet hands. Appears in Soviet hands. Brest-Litovsk in Soviet hands. But Germany doesn't withdraw like they're supposed to. And there's a sort of a second agreement. This time, Molotov comes to Berlin. There's a second agreement in which Lithuania is given to the Soviet sphere of influence, and which is really telling is before all this happens, but after the Molotov Pact, but before the Soviets come into this part of the world, there's a massive effort to extract German-speaking peoples from Estonia and Latvia, but not from Lithuania, because Lithuania was going to be in the German sphere. Well, this gets traded. Lithuania gets traded for this part of Poland. It's the states. I hate the state mechanic. It doesn't quite work out. But so, and it wasn't just this one area. It was sort of probably like this bit. I don't know, maybe not so much. But some of this area that was, because I think this area here was supposed to be, not all the way in Krakow, but just sort of these provinces were supposed to be in the Soviet sphere. I think this was supposed to be in the Soviet sphere, but goes into the German sphere. That's why there's an odd sort of state there. And I think this was also supposed to be in the Soviet sphere, and I don't know quite where in here was the border was supposed to be. But so they redraw the lines, but this is only sort of after Germany's on the ground refusal to withdraw back to whatever river this is. I wish they put river names. I know there's stuff in the chat. I'll get to you in a moment. So this could have flared up into conflict, whether on orders of Stalin or Hitler, or whether just local guys start shooting at each other because somebody here had been weeks ago been ordered to move his troops into wherever, and he remembers the show trials and people being executed. Excuse me. People being executed. Is there really a Minsk here and a Minsk out here? Don't know. People being executed, and god damn it, I'm not going to be executed in the next show trial. I'm moving my forces where I've been told to it. God damn it. And the Germans are just going to have to, give way. And when they don't, and they start shooting at each other because some general or colonel or whatever does not want to be killed in the next show trial, follows orders that are now maybe out of date. He may have not gotten the update orders. The NKVD might not have gotten his update orders to him or something like that. And we could have seen a German-Soviet war break out here. I've just given you a reasonable, maybe not likely, but a reasonable start to a German-Soviet war in 1939, okay, as winter's approaching. That's a reasonable thing. I can draw a reasonable, not a wacky what if Japan had conquered Russia or the Soviet Union in 1936 when they were sparring out, or 37 or whenever they're sparring out. Obviously that's not going to happen, didn't happen, but it's not even a wacky thing. Well, what if Japan takes all of east of Irkutsk or whatever, east of this Bala something river or lake, but everything east of here or something. This sort of wacky that's not likely to happen. This is something that really could have happened. And so those kind of things I'm really good with. And so I just played that through. And I know we're talking still about doing things differently. So I played that in German Invasion of Hearts of Iron 3. So reasonable changes. For me, there's just so much variety that is in the plausible faction, plausible to have happened, that I've yet to get bored of it. So what's everybody saying? Okay, LP is still here in chat. Tell you the truth, you just like making messed up timelines. I didn't hear it. Oh, OCB. Or so sandbox and arcadey. It will get boring and stale and you just have no real challenges. Absolutely, OCB. That's very much how I see the problems with Hearts of Iron 4. I mean, Hearts of Iron 4 is the sort of the future, but it needs to be sort of restricted like Hearts of Iron 3 Black Ice a much more. And then that would be a much better game. I think more likely I'm wrong. I just like Roosevelt. Okay. Oh, you don't like Roosevelt? Yes. Okay. Oh, what wasn't it Roosevelt who gave Stalin half of Europe? No. Not really. Roosevelt dies, of course, and it's Truman. Roosevelt thought he could finesse the situation. Roosevelt was really focused on winning World War II, where once you get to sort of, first Churchill is like, how the hell does Britain survive? Not win. How does it survive? Once the Americans are in, well, okay, how can we turn the tide on the Germans? Get us conquering them. Then Churchill is worried about what's the world going to be like after World War II, because you remember, Churchill was basically Secretary of the Navy. He was sort of the civilian, because he's an army officer, but he was but has a tradition in the Navy. He's the head of the Navy, the sort of the civilian head of the Navy, if you will, in World War I. He's the Lord of the Admiralty. It's sort of a civilian / military type position, because you can't have a military person in that position, but it's sort of the political head of the Admiralty. He's head of the Navy in World War I, and sort of, is responsible for the disastrous Gallipoli campaign. But so he's been around in the government positions and saw how messed up the end of World War I was and all the problems it's caused. He's worried about the post-war world. FDR thinks he can sort of finesse things a little bit better and is probably not as concerned about the post-war Eastern Europe as he should be, because, hey, he's off in America, and that's a long ways away for us. But, I mean, I'm not saying he's not at all concerned, but he's very fixated on just winning the war, not winning the peace afterwards. And of course he dies, and also he's getting sicker and sicker. It isn't just like, obviously he's in the wheelchair for the whole time period. His legs don't work, and whenever you see him standing up, he has super heavy braces on his legs and can barely sort of hobble and walk and needs somebody to sort of walk next to him. So he can briefly walk, with these super, basically straight leg braces on it that he sort of waddles back and forth. They don't film him walking because it looks super awkward. They just film him standing there, or either film him standing like at a podium, or photograph him standing. But he's basically functioning in a wheelchair through all World War II. But it's in the last, 6 months or so, his whole, I'm not saying he's like doesn't know where he is, but he's not as sharp as he is, and he's just physically deteriorating, and then finally dies. I don't know the details of the medical situation, but it isn't like super healthy, and then one day he falls over dead. He's declining, sort of like Joe Biden is right now, but even more so. So yeah. Hello, Night Sergeant Huntman. How you doing? Ireland is not a country. It is simply a revolt. Well, that's some sort of truth to that, I think. Bold words for someone in the potato range. In that Ireland, well, as if you look at Ireland, it's sort of outside pressures that finally make Ireland a, if you will, a country. Stalin was keeping Eastern Europe because what an Allied leader wanted. The Soviet Union fought the burnt out of the Axis war machine and suffered the most. I hear you, Darren, but why not say in 1944, at the beginning of 1944, stop all Lend-Lease to the Soviets? Hey, Nagar, good to have you here. That'll slow them down considerably. Won't stop them, but stop all Lend-Lease to the Soviets. Just go, no more fuel, no more aircraft, no more supplies, because they were sending just basic supplies in there. I know there's a lot of oil here, but they were sending all kinds of supplies as well as war material. Just stop it all. 1944, stop it. Oh, Stalin, we need it. We're getting ready for our second front. We need it. We need it. We need it. We need it. To slow them up, to make sure that the Western Allies get to Berlin before the Soviets. That could have happened. Also, Churchill, who is technically at war with Britain, is at war with Bulgaria, but Bulgaria is not at war with the Soviet Union. Churchill mistakenly believes that this is the soft underbelly of Europe. He's wrong about that. But he wants to come in here and invade in through Greece. He actually does take one of these Greek islands briefly, but can't hold it too much, mostly on air attacks. They couldn't keep supplying it. I don't know which one of the islands, but he does take one of the islands briefly and pulls out. He wants to come in here and attack up into here to get to someplace like Bucharest before the Soviets get there. He wants to secure like Romania before they get there. I don't know if they could secure Poland enough before the Soviets get there, but there is a plausibility of if they land, I would say plausible, not likely, but plausible, that if they land down here. Now, also, Churchill is, and I actually knew one of the women who actually parachuted, an English woman who parachuted into Yugoslavia during World War II. Churchill is very much supporting the rebels in Greece and the rebels in Yugoslavia to have friendly post-war governments there. He's able to keep Greece, but has to give up Yugoslavia, partially just because of Tito, who he's supporting Tito, but Tito decides to support the Soviet Union a bit more. But had they landed down here strong enough and then offered peace solutions to Bulgaria and Romania that would keep their monarchies in charge, I think they would have pieced out, and maybe, which they sort of did. And Bulgaria pieces out and still gets invaded by the Soviet Union. And we also see Hungary pieces out at some point, and the Germans turn on the Hungarians as well and battle them in the Battle of Budapest. So these nations might have pieced out had there been an Anglo-American, coming into Salonika down here, coming in and landing here in force. Not just, a battalion or two, but had they landed in force and shown the ability to, because there's a lot of Bulgarian troops holding this part of territory. By this point, I know we're talking about other periods of World War II and we're supposed to be playing Britain Black Ice, but this is like post Sicily, sort of post the fall of the Italian government. So the Italian forces are either interred, shot, or whatnot by the Germans here. So there's German occupation forces, there's Bulgarian occupation forces. If Bulgaria pieces out and switch sides, which they probably would do so, if there's a force here, because Bulgaria is only at war because it wants this land back, because it had been that before World War I and lost it because they were on the wrong side of that, and does sort of kind of want this from Yugoslavia. That's really all they really want there. And of course they want that back from Romania. That's their war goals. But they would probably go back to this, if they could piece out to go back to that original. So you'd have the Bulgarian army not being some great conquering army, but enough to stand up to local German anti-partisan forces if you have American and British divisions rolling in here. So you've lost a good portion of your defense forces. Yes, there's a bunch of German, even a few Panzer divisions down here of lesser quality at the time. But had they come in here, maybe taken Rhodes or Cyprus, Crete, and with the American and British air power, but primarily American air power, they could probably successfully come up here and bypass Athens, land in Salonika, and get in here. And that it would be hard. It's fairly hard because, again, I say that's sort of Churchill's dream that this is a soft underbelly of Europe. But because these mountains and whatnot are pretty hard to fight through, but probably we would see us like what happens once you get into the toe of Italy here. Italy surrenders and actually sort of becomes a co-belligerent, meaning they're actually fighting the Germans, but they're not officially allowed into the side of the Allies. Bulgaria could have become a co-belligerent as well. And maybe also Romania, maybe also Hungary. And in the latter days, which did also happen, is when even Slovakia turns on them. But I could see all these Balkan, and of course you already have Tito with the partisans in Yugoslavia actually fighting him. I could see this whole area falling to an Anglo-American force because they don't put up any resistance and have secretly send bug out messages to the division commanders of whatever force is still fighting the Soviet Union to try to get out or whatever, but take all this off, which cuts off German oil. So yeah, again, I'm not sure, but it depends on what the date is that this happens, where the Soviet forces are, whether Poland can become. Well, it's probably not going to look like this. I'll agree to that. Stalin was going to take some. Probably couldn't stop him from taking the Baltic states. Agree to that. Poland, would probably end up getting, East Prussia and some of, looking sort of like it does today. And yeah, this may, like it is today, go back to the Soviet Union. You know, it wouldn't be a perfect solution, but I think I can just draw you here how, if the Allies had sort of, shall we say, followed Churchill's push into here as a possible second front instead of here, meaning we're going to come parallel with you and drive towards Berlin so as to keeping you out of all of this territory. I don't know, maybe those watching now or later can tell me I'm full of shit on all this, and I might be, but I think that's another reasonable scenario I've just drawn that could have happened. And what, they should not have given them B-29s. Yes, you're absolutely right. They did. You know, you don't have to give them your best stuff to keep, especially late in the war, to keep the Soviets fighting. I mean, you can give them either way out of date airplanes or just continue to, you know, give them basic supplies. There were 6 or 7 Italians that fought the Germans in northern Italy. Yes, you're absolutely right, Darren. Weren't they the army of the... No, the army of the... okay. No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. 6 to 7 divisions. What happens is a few divisions are that in northern Italy that are considered loyal enough and continue to fight. Most of the divisions that continue to fight of the Italian Social Republic are maybe some people coming out of prisoner of war camps, but are mostly loyalist fascists that have formed new units. At some point, Mussolini tries to put a fascist battalion in just about every division. So these are fascist loyalists put into the division because the Army of Italy is still primarily a royalist army. It's not a fascist army. It's loyal to the king mostly. So some division, like I say, there were a few divisional commanders that were enough of a fascist, and they held sway over their troops to keep them basically on the German side. Germany, puts into prisoner of war camps a lot of German units. Well, of course, they include, members of the fascist brigades and whatnot. So out of these, they recruit new forces that fight alongside the Germans up in northern Italy. There are other divisions, and some of them are quickly reclothed, mostly in British clothing, but that actively fight the Germans. And that's maybe a bit overstating it, but they sort of help, a bit more help in the idea of securing rear areas and doing some of that kind of support. And remember, one of the few big ships that the Fritz X bomb sinks is the Germans sinking the Italian battleship as it was being moved. So there's a lot of that kind of thing going on. Hello, Doxao Kobach. I'm always bad on these names. I'm not familiar with. Hello, how are you doing? They reversed engineered. Yes, absolutely. They reversed engineered on just about everything. It's an interesting. Oh yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff with the Italian campaign. Okay, well, enough talking about future history. Let's continue moving forward here with our 1936 stuff. So, like, I can plausibly. Churchill is upset. Okay, we gain stability. Gains good Anglo-German relations opinion. That the war didn't need to end the way it ended. You don't have to land in Western Europe and drive towards Berlin. Okay, let's take a quick look at our production here. Okay, all green down this side because we're not adding, well, except for garrison equipment. We're not adding new units, and we don't need submachine guns. We don't need mortars, but we're not producing them. Okay. We could maybe use some more carrier freighters in production. Okay, well, we just need to add more production here as time goes on. I mean, isn't Churchill upset? Oh, I don't know that Churchill's always upset. I'm a real big fan of Churchill. I know he's gotten a lot of bad names recently, but I'm a real big fan of his. He saw the dangers early on, and the dangers of communism, the dangers of the Nazis. He saw all of that. Okay, well, we've got the 36 technologies here. Let's look over here. British Armor 38 for Cruiser Mark 1, Matilda Mark 2. This is a very heavy tankette, in my opinion. Now, it does sort of fall under, if you will, as the British are defining them, infantry tanks, which the Churchills I would also call infantry tanks, though. Yeah, I'd maybe heavy infantry tanks over standard infantry tanks. I don't know. Well, I guess I mean, there's nothing wrong with going into the 50s on it. I don't know. Yeah, this does sort of fit the British tank doctrines. What is sort of missing here, I guess, is Lend-Lease. American Shermans. I mean, we do have this, but this is just a, well, you know, put on a bigger gun and put an armored box on the back of it, basically. That's all we did to those after they showed up in Britain. Yeah, we're not probably going to do that this early. Okay, we have the ACE. Now, these really weren't that armored, these command vehicles. I don't think they would stop a bullet. I don't think. They were just bigger trucks that had metal sides on them. They're not like meant to get into combat, but the idea that maybe if a bomb lands somewhat near them, the sort of blast shock wave might not take them out, but the big fragments from the bombs would probably be punching through whatever skin they have of it. Okay, Cardin, Lloyd Carrier, Brain Gun, Mark 1. Yeah, okay, Brain Gun Mark 2. Well, that's getting into the Universal by that point. Okay, well, let's go with armored cars, light vehicles. Well, the Austin Tilly is a, you know, more civilian grade, I would call it. Useful, but it's a, and one thing, I mean, they cheap to make, so Britain is, you know, stressed for production ability, and it's already operating as a, you know, civilian car, so you're just converting a civilian car into sort of a light military truck. So it's sort of in the, useful in well-developed areas. So a little utility vehicle running around Britain, it's, you know, with the roads and whatnot, it's really useful and that kind of thing. And it gets into the better something than nothing for just light vehicles. I don't know quite how you're doing it. And this is, of course, a good light utility vehicle. The Humber Scout car? I don't get why this is here. I don't know if you guys know about this thing. It fits two men. It's pretty cramped in a little armored thing. There's no roof, no armored roof on it. It's sort of like, you know, like a Bren gun carrier or whatever. It's open roofed. The engine's back here, but it can't carry anything back here. This is not like a bed for, you know, putting supplies on it. There's no real supply ability. You got much more supply stacking ability in the back seat of a Jeep. Now, I don't get, I mean, this is a reconnaissance vehicle, which is what it was, yeah. Because notice it says scout car. That works. I don't know quite what that's supposed to be. Now, of course, armored cars, whether for scouting or other reasons. Yeah, we'll go with that. I don't know. We probably need it to fill some slots. Okay. Let's see. We're still, at least in my mind, in the I want to increase civilian factories. Thanks, Arno. The British submachine guns. Looks like the stockpile of Tommy guns. No, the British did not have any submachine guns until after the fall of France. They had zero. They bought those Tommy guns, the Thompson submachine guns, from America after the fall of France, because it was like, oh shit, we need these. The Germans used them very well. They had been using them okay in Spain, and we knew about those there in Spain, and we because they'd use the MP30 whatevers. They had yet to get to the MP38 in Spain. That never went to Spain. But yeah, we knew all about submachine guns from World War One, but we didn't need them, and oops, now we do. So they did not have any submachine guns. So I don't know what that stockpile is meant to be. That's wrong. It just shouldn't be there. The Sten gun and the Lanchester were both developed after the fall of France. I wasn't sure just, yeah, oh yeah, no, I'd love to hear your guys' comments on it. But it's just something that I don't think people realize how, I don't know, backward maybe Britain was in that field. Okay. Now, another all-purpose slot just opened up. Again, we got to hit these twice. Wood gasifiers, which are really important for Britain. Let's see. Will reduce civilian usage by 90% of its total. Okay, that's good. Well, we don't need that just yet. And it slows down civilian factory construction speeds, which we're doing. So we'll do this, which is sort of standard. Go heavy tanks only. No, I'm not stupid. Come on. Yeah, I don't get what mod makers know or understand about things. And trust me, as you can tell sitting here, I don't know everything. I'm not claiming I do. Okay, British Heavy Artillery 1. Do we want to switch over to British Heavy Artillery 2? What to me sort of determines that is, do we have enough heavy? We don't even have enough heavy artillery right now. And I guess we're not even making... thought we were making. Oh, we're production of surplus of 0.06 units. Okay. So right now we're making 1.7 a month. So I'm not going to slow down my production to swap to newer stuff. I think I right now would just rather have enough artillery than the best artillery. Maybe that's the wrong. Well, thank you, Nagaro. Yeah, it was a fun game to play. The EU there. Everyone can check out what we're doing. Okay, withdraw from the naval treaties, propaganda ministry, additional consumer goods factories. No, I don't want to do that. We have a lot of stability right now at 72%. I do like how they broke out stability and war support for just quote-unquote national unity. Train the workers force. Schools one production efficiency. Research speed. Effects when removed. Gain stability takes. Increase funding in the League of Nations. I don't know if we want to do that, if we care. Foreign policy. That's a lot of stuff to look into. And don't allow allied troops on our fronts. That might be useful to keep away annoying units. Okay, well, what we're going to do here is we're going to come here, grow rubber plantation in Nigeria. It takes 180 days. We'll use 3 civilian factories and 25. And we can take a quick look at resources here. And we have Well, maybe not as much as I thought, but mostly plenty of rubber. I guess I don't know if it's under somebody else's British Raj. Is that because we should have British Malaya, I guess. So we could trade for rubber from here right now. I'm not always thrilled by the way this works, not just having it directly as part of 78, 62 here, 17 up here, as opposed to just having it directly part of Britain. I get the Raj more so because it was a bit more of a separate entity. I don't know. And I don't like the Dutch East Indies not being able to trade their resources direct to the Germans, because whether World War I or World War II, they functionally could. So when you do World War II mod, now, yeah, so for the World War I mod, and having this as separate, and Germany have to trading lanes, no, because in World War I, the Dutch were importing rubber and whatnot into the Netherlands, and then selling across the border into Germany, and Britain, of course, wasn't going to sink Dutch ships. So I don't like this mechanic. Now, I like the idea that you need to ship it to Europe, whether to Britain or to the Netherlands, to make it useful for these factories. So meaning if you are, have submarines out here and it was the Dutch trying to use the rubber or to sell the rubber, but you were attacking Dutch shipping, yeah, that all works for me. But I just don't like it entirely. But what we're going to likely see is Japan taking all of this rubber here everywhere. So having some rubber over here. This might be a little low at just one rubber, because there was a number of rubber plantations plus wild rubber growing here, and the locals were harvesting wild rubber to sell to the trading companies. But I have some stats, but I don't know if they're good. But I would probably put it 3 or 4 rubber at least. It's not a huge amount of rubber, but it's some rubber. Especially since I put 5 up here. Yeah, I'd put some more down here. No, what are we talking about? The first spun machine gun was Britain, February 40. But they did not adopt anything until after the fall of France. You have the first submachine gun that the British are trying to put together is the Lanchester. The Lanchester is also known as the MP-28, or the MP-18 of World War I Germany. The MP-28 is simply taking the trommel magazine, the snail drum, as we would call it in America here, artillery Luger magazine that they used in World War I, removing that and changing the magazine well where it goes in to be able to take a double stack straight magazine. That is the only real change. I mean, there may be some cosmetic changes, but a lot of the MP-18s, or say most of the MP-18s still in Germany, and mostly used by police departments or whatnot, get changed out to it. They actually change the guns. And so any later production is the MP-28. The Lanchester is almost a direct copy of it. And functionally, it is a direct copy of it. Again, it's only cosmetic changes. It's in the same caliber. And I think it's only the Royal Navy, maybe the RAF, but definitely not the Army. The Army does not approve making of Lanchester, though they do for the Sten gun, and that's coming in there. So, but they're not adopted until after the fall of France. Okay, see you, Toy Jet. What's up with your grenade launcher? Don't know about that. Wait a bit, maybe, Darren. I've been their mod thing has sort of been a bit wonky for me. I was so, took a while for them to load all the mods in. Limited rearmament, very good. Okay, now again, we saw the civilian program, National Service Act. Okay, that's at war, so we don't need that yet. Cables, it requires cable street. Okay. Don't know what that is. Maybe it's an event thing. I don't know. At war. Okay, so we really don't need these until we're sort of at war. Bevan's army, Bevan's boys. I don't know. Bevan was one of the internal ministers for Britain. Okay, that looks very promising. Reinforce the empire overseas. Just looking which ones we'll be using first. Okay, I think we will. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's the Paradox launcher is a little effed up at the moment. Just give it time. Yes, it's from the yes, as Arno's saying. Mr. Stainer, how you doing? You can get it there. You need 2 mods. You need the Black Ice mod, and you'll see it there. You can just search for Black Ice. But there's also, because there's a mod size limitation with Steam, you need to specify, there'll be a link there in it, to a graphics add-on that will get you all of the graphics components for it. So you'll need to have both, and you'll need to have both of those. You'll need to subscribe to both of those, and then you'll need to check both of the boxes when you want to play Black Ice. Okay, let's look at ships we want to build. And I already know what I want to do, because like I say, I played for a little bit before starting this, just to get some idea what's going on. I want to lay lots and lots of minefields, so we're going to do the Grampus class submarine that has mine laying level 1.40 right here. So we're going to put these into production. Oh, Silver Crimson Black. With the Black Ice, yes, I still think it's better, but this is the future. And Black Ice is helping making this better. Oh, we can get another spy. Okay, good. Yeah, we'll go for the double agent on Polio, or I don't know how you say it. This guy is also Yugoslav. Well, we'll get him, and let's see, what can we do with you in Germany? Quiet intel. Boost ideology, propaganda, root out resistance. Control trade, diplomatic pressure. We'll do this for the moment here. Well, you're... Huh? You're still doing your thing, aren't you? Second London Naval Treaty signed. Oh, well, he's taken over. Oh, I don't know if I wanted to do that. Huh? We don't do both? Okay, well. You, I guess, we do counterintelligence back here in Britain right now. I'm hoping to use him to get into steal some plans or infiltrate stuff once we can. And mentioning that, let's... And I also noticed this. I like that we start with MI6, so I don't have to build MI6. I love that. Again, I love how they're doing this. And they're starting with a scene. James Bond dies. Yes, you've heard that Sean Connery's dead. And that's from the movie Thunderball. That sort of Hugo Largo is there. And what is it? Cara Lotte, I think, is the woman's name in the movie, is that scene sort of taken from. But we have an operations department, we have a cryptology department. Already counterintelligence, anti-partisan, expanded overseas management. Where's Airy when you need him? Who's doing this? Stealing blueprints. We'll do that. We'll get that going and building. Propaganda campaign, economic and military decisions. Cool. You're going to try to hold Norway and or Denmark. Never Denmark. Denmark I don't think is holdable. I don't know about Norway. I don't know if against a proper human player, I don't think you could hold southern Norway. Maybe against the AI. You might be able to hold the Narvik area. That I can see that as a just general sort of possibility. Okay, so we have... Okay, well, since they may do a lot of mines, because we're going to be doing mines, let's do degaussing. Yes, just today, Jaden, he died. Sean Connery died, 90 years old. So yes, Sean Connery. Okay, well, Italy finally wins. All right. Research. No, I want to look at decisions. We're going to wait a little while, build up a little more political power. Let's build 2 more submarine production lines of mine layers. I just figured this, not sure, but figure the mine laying subs would be able to get in closer and not be air attacked like the ships would do. The latest version, Victor, I don't quite know the exact version of this black ice. Italy takes Addis Ababa. Hello, Atlas. How you doing? I just was on Twitter and I figured everybody knew we talked about this at the beginning of the stream, but yeah, Sean Connery has passed. Died. Loved him in so many movies. Okay, well, we're still in 36, so I don't really... because we're not going to build up a lot. Some hurricanes, yeah, before the real kickoff, but it's really going to be looking at Spitfires, I guess, for our main. So let's continue with doing that. Yeah, it is sad. I mean, it's not I don't feel a tragic loss because obviously was getting a bit old, but we'd like to see him around longer. Bridge Too Far, The Wind and the Lion. I'm going to have to look up that other movie. As soon as I get close to it, I'll probably remember. Yeah. Let's see. What movie am I thinking of? Well, I wasn't thinking of it, but He was also in Zardoz. Of course, you probably, if you haven't watched the movies you should see, and I'm going to start, and a few of you know this already, I'm going to start doing some top 10 lists of movies, starting with historical stuff. But there's like Molly Maguire's and whatnot. But you should see Zardoz if you've never seen it. He was also in Murder on the Orient Express, the first one, the really good one. Is not a major. Oh, yes. The Wind and the Lion is, which I mentioned earlier, great. He plays the bad guy, if you will, in it, a romanticized bad guy. And the other one, The Man Who Would Be King, that was the movie I was thinking of, along with Michael Caine. You would love to watch that. That is a great movie. Not a lot of people know about that. Of course, you all know The Bridge Too Far. The First Great Train Robbery. You like that? Time Bandits. He plays King Agamemnon in the Time Bandits. That's a great movie. It's a comedy, but a great movie. And I tweaked because the official 007 Twitter account, which is owned by the producers of the James Bond films, listed all but one of his James Bond movies that he started in, and I tweaked them. What about Never Say Never Again? Which, of course, they didn't own the rights to it. They didn't even acknowledge that being one of his. He's, of course, been in the Highlander movies, and the first one is great. The others are but Highlander, you should want to watch that. Of course, The Untouchables, The Presidio, that's another very good movie. And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, I presume you've seen. Hunt for Red October. The Russia House as well, another spy thriller. What else? You have I'm just talking, I'm not all of this stuff here, but the good ones. The Rock is pretty good when he's in that movie. Going back to some of his earlier stuff. Of course, he's in The Longest Day. I don't know if I don't see it here right now, but he has a sort of a bit role playing. Oh yeah, it is here in The Longest Day. You should check that movie out, of course. One of the best movies on D-Day. Maybe the best, but definitely one of the best. And of course, all the James Bond movies. So, yeah, there's other good movies like Cuba and Robin and Marion, but those ones I was giving are the really good ones that you should check out if you have not seen yet. Okay. No, this isn't the test version. I don't want to play the test versions of the game. So, yeah, well, we'll see about an anti-aircraft cruiser. I'm not sure. Yes, another huge actor. I think the Man Who Would Be King is their only duel, and together in the movies. Not sure. Yeah, he was in Robin Hood, but he was also in Robin and Marion, which is, in my opinion, better than the Robin Hood that he was in. Robin and Marion, which is sort of a movie set after the Robin Hood main sort of thing. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, yeah, I know he was in that. He wasn't bad in it, but I just don't like that movie terribly well. I mean, I don't hate it or anything. So yeah, but yeah, it's not one of my favorites. Not one that I'm like recommending is everyone should go watch. Guatemala withdraws from the League of Nations. I didn't know about this. Observers cannot help but notice that the League of Nations has been put under pressure. So years after Germany, Japan, and the League of Nations. Yeah, okay. Finally, the League has now to cope with the next blow to its goals, with Guatemala announcing its withdrawal today. Okay, I don't know. What? I mean, that's interesting. In World War I tank at night. Yeah. Well, isn't that the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Or are you thinking of the Last Crusade, which is set after World War I? But I don't know. Or maybe there's something I don't know. I haven't seen it because I just saw his on Wikipedia, the filmography. There was some movies I hadn't seen there. Okay, let's see about an economics minister. Don't know why we don't have one. Okay, Maxwell Atkins, Harold Wilson. I recognize some of these names. Okay, that's the communist that we just Harry Pat. We're not going to have him. Conservative armaments organizer. No, economic ministry cause. Conservative captain of industry. John Anderson. I think that's maybe, is that from where the Anderson shelter name comes from? I forget. I did make a government structure, which is maybe about as good as what this is. A long time ago, but okay. Conservative support, infrastructure, speed, civilian factory construction, speed, vehicle, truck factory construction. War industrialists. Well, we're still building up our civilian factory to build up more. Industrial planner. Conversion. I think we're going to do war industrialists, though. Just because more of a long-term, I think, play here. As opposed to, because like I say, we're not really using him yet, but it's going to take a long while to build up. Because I like I say, those of you who weren't here at the start, I really like the idea that you're starting with the government at least partially full here. I would much prefer to use the political power to make changes as opposed to fill it up, because it would be nice to like start with one guy and in 37 or 38 swap to a better one, but I want to also fill up all of these positions first, so it's not quite that good. Okay, it's been so long since I've seen League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I think I only saw it once. I'm not a big comic book fan, so I wasn't coming at it from the comic books or whatever where it started. It just seemed like that movie maybe had potential, but it just wasn't that good. Japan claims hegemony in East Asia. Okay. So I was sort of disappointed in the movie. My understanding is they asked Sean Connery to play Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. And Sean Connery, being Sean Connery, sort of like really didn't know too much about the Lord of the Rings and what this sort of wizard role was going to be, so he like turns it down. And then when it's like this really massive, really great, cinematic thing, but because I don't know if he knew about the Tolkien novels before, even though obviously they were well around, but I just don't know how well read he was in the fantasy realm. I knew what the importance of the role. So he really sort of felt disappointed. My understanding, this is just, I either heard it on a documentary or read somewhere or something. He really felt sort of like disappointed that he turned down and missed out on that role. And when League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was being put out, another sort of fantasy comic book role for a English hero kind of guy, he just jumped at it, and without really knowing. I think it starts out as a comic book series, Jaden. I have nothing against comic books, and I watched, Superman, whatever, movies way back, or cartoons when I was a kid, but I've never been a comic book superhero kind of thing. Now, if you look at, and I do have some what I would call graphic novels, especially the early, the good Star Wars period, before Star Wars went bad. The graphic novels, I like those. I have a pretty decent collection of those, but I'm not big on comic books. Again, I'm not trying to knock them or anything, but it's just never been a focus of mine, so I don't know those well. But I think there's a comic book series. So if you want to get into it, if you like the idea of the lore of it and want to get into it beyond just watching a movie, you can check those out. I presume 70 Days Naval. Yeah, this is just too much for me to pass up. Oh yeah, the old. Oh, I have basically the complete collection of the old expanded universe until it went off. Until I thought it started to go off the rails with the Vong invasion of the galaxy or whatever. That was getting a little too weird for me. So I stopped it there. Nick, yes, we already got the announcement. Stop reading those. The expanded universe Star Wars novels. And the comic books, the reason I got those is because they were part of canon. So to understand, like I got the Dark Empire series and whatnot to understand what was going on with all of that. Man, they could have made great Star Wars movies, but unfortunately they sold it to Disney, and Disney gave it to a woke intersectionalist who hated Star Wars and wanted to use it as a platform to push out girl power or whatever the hell it is, and men are evil. Okay. Well, we're still in 30. Yeah, I'm just going with. I know we start needing some more other production, but I'm just because we've increased some stuff. I'm going with civilian factories for 36. That's just enough of my temperament playing from Germany. Okay, well we got 3 production lines of submarines, so they're cranking out. Okay, yeah, 3 subs a month. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Well, we got a carrier, cruiser interwar, cruisers. They'll take a while. Well, what do we have? Nelson class battleship, Admiral class battleship. Well, since it's a little cheaper, and I don't know that how much battleships will be needed. Okay, we have 3 more or 2 more. No, 4 more civilian factories available. I think I'm at least right now wanting to just put more things into production. Maybe. Well, maybe, okay, carrier fighters, sport ships. Okay, no, I think we need to more do stuff like get enough field uniforms. So let's add a factory to field uniforms. There we go. I think transport will be necessary, so horse and artillery truck. So let's increase that. If you don't have enough transport, it really slows down. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Where is artillery? No, it's pure. Okay, yeah. Okay, that allows us 1 more. What? Or just not enough AA just means you don't deal with that, but not enough transport slows you down. Well, I guess light vehicles. I'm sort of hoping to get those production efficiency up and going and keep that going. Heir of Empire. Oh, those were great books by Timothy Zahn. I've not followed his more recent Star Wars stuff by Zahn. I know Toy Jet, who you've heard around on yesterday on the thing. He's a big fan of the continuing Thrawn, Mithranduro, or however you say his full name. Stuff more recent stuff in the current books, but I have not continued to follow it past the Hand of Thrawn, I believe was the last ones I was reading years ago now. Oh yeah, I have my Star Wars and Star Trek geek sides and whatnot, and I mean I'm a big, of course, World War II geek, but I got some of the other stuff. But just, you know, I remember watching the Super Friends cartoons and Batman cartoon and the old original Batman live action show. Honduras withdraws. Oh boy, you know, TV show, the original Batman TV show. And I like all of that, and I watched it and whatever, but I've just never been a comic book fan of those superheroes type stuff. Spanish Civil War, okay. And so, yeah, it wasn't very good. I can understand it. More of a Star Wars Legends. Yeah, well, it's what you call Legends. I think of it as the expanded universe. Nigaro. And so, yeah. Once this channel that you're watching now on YouTube gets big enough, I'm thinking of starting a sci-fi fantasy gaming channel to sort of focus on that, but I can bring enough people over that have similar views. So I want to play more sci-fi and fantasy games as well, because I love those kind of things too. But I've just learned with what's going on here, if I go too much, I've even sort of poked, I don't know if you guys would want to see me play Subnautica or something like that, which I've been playing, played all the way through Subnautica, and now I'm playing through Below Zero. And there's other stuff I play, but I just don't know whether it gets big enough audience here to want to continue. No, we don't want to do that yet. Fuel resource, I don't know whether we just want to rely upon trying to get it from the US. Political power, 95 days base stability. Now we're just stable enough that I don't feel pressure to do more of that. I want to get down through here to do various things here, and eventually, yeah, radios and whatnot. But I mean, good maybe eventually, but I just don't see that as well. Okay, what in this is still sort of in 36. Okay, enables building military factory state level 10. Okay, so this is a technology like we see before, that there's slots for civilian and slots for military factories. This, I guess, expands how much you get to put in a state or something like that, as well as factory and dockyard output. So we'll the minus 5% on stability. Now, see, with that minus 5% on base stability might be a reason to want to do the record player thingy to counterbalance that. You like Subnautica? Well, very good. And there's a lot of people that like some of these things. It's just sort of like, and I'm going to make a complaint here. You people don't seem to want to watch. I know Jaden watched yesterday. Want to watch me play with friends EU4. Because nobody's clicking on the thumbnails. And I know that a few of you good people out there have advised me to edit my videos more, get it down, take a 40-minute video and get it down, I don't know, 30 minutes or something, and just the good parts, get rid of the worst bits. And you have a good point with that. But when people aren't even clicking on, when they are clicking on the Black Ice thumbnail, but they're not clicking on the EU thumbnail, it really comes down to, it doesn't, because with both of those things, they're both the same set of people. Whether it would be better edited or not, that is not the question here. It's the thumbnail and the description, which includes the game. And if they don't like one but they like the other, it's different. And I do get the views are, sometimes a lot of people click on stuff and it's only like 5% that fully watch the video. And they always very quickly drop down. But other times it's 15% getting all of people who click on the video getting all the way through the video is good for anybody's YouTubes, unless it's like a 2 or 3 minute. But for like a 40-minute video, an hour video, the stuff that I'm mostly producing, even a 30-minute video, 15% getting all the way through is pretty good. So if there was huge amounts of people and clicked on the videos and then not watched them, I get that. But so your point about, I'm talking to Arno and some of the other people. Hello, USA man. But you had things to do. Well, no, but I mean, even watching the later stuff that I put up, because I'm going to be putting up more weekly, and it just people not, because I totally get people not being available when things are live, but I'm also putting up and recording at other times. So yeah, sort of both. Okay, yeah, we're still doing more civilian factories. Let's put one up in Lothian. So I'm not complaining about people can't show up live, because I can show up because obviously I'm there, but I don't expect any of you. But it just, since people aren't clicking on like the first 2 episodes of that series, sort of, quite honestly, very much makes me want to not continue it. And I don't care so much about live views just because of that. I mean, it's great that according to things, there's about 27 of you watching between Twitch and YouTube, and that's great. I really appreciate that because I love the interaction. But really, it's the videos that I make and put up later are the ones that I judge how well it goes, whether I should keep playing something. Okay, what is this? Magnetic detonator. Okay. Oh, okay. This is like to detonate it magnetically. Okay. Those didn't go so well for some nations. Okay. Heavy torpedo development. Okay, so this is 36. Piercing battle cruiser. Man, they've got a lot of this stuff. I sort of like the way World Ablaze does it. Just give me the damn ship models. Maybe some of this variable stuff, especially things like radar that was upgraded on all kinds of ships. I don't know. This part of it is just, I mean, I get a lot of the concepts here. You know, ammunition is another thing that does get upgraded. And I do know they did a lot of work on building better ammos for some of these ships during the period. That I think is better. Definitely things like radar improvements on ships, and because you can have a base, you know, you have the hood or whatever, and you can upgrade the, you know, put on radar and then upgrade the radar or whatever. That all makes sense without fundamentally changing the hood and what the hood was as a ship. Should start an OnlyFans or the pics of. Well, I don't know about OnlyFans. I did one time Google for Pornhub to see what it would take to stream there, and it's a whole. I mean, just to put this on there, just as sort of a joke, but it's a whole approval process, and I don't think gaming videos would get there. Hey, Dorku Saga, how you doing? Yeah, it's been a while since I played, and I've really been fascinated with all your changes. I sort of like how you got the different tech companies. I don't know if you sorted out my biggest complaint of modifiers for the invasion of the Soviet Union by Germany and playing up Britain to sort of avoid that, or the trade range problem that I had for Romania and Britain, but which were those are the 2 things that made me quit last time. But yeah, no, I'm liking a lot of what you're doing. If you haven't been watching stuff. Hello, Nico. Good to have you here from Spain. I do like to know where people. Okay, Turkish Straits question. How interesting pops up right now. The zone around the Straits of the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles, this is the Bosphorus, oh, it's even marked on the map, okay, if you didn't know, have been demilitarized by the Lucien Treaty. This is an important region, may fall into the wrong hands in the current state. It is better to let the Turks give full sovereignty here. Okay. I guess my only complaint about this is I only have one choice. Why, Ian? Yes, the tech companies do remind me of HOI II, which I've not played, but I have read about. I will say I like this. And I have not in any way gone through the full national focus tree, but I presume, just presuming that there's some ways to expand some of this at some point. I like that I can, you know, have some all-purpose, because if I really wanted to say whether focus on aircraft or whatever, be able to push it. But I also like the idea, and I don't know enough about these companies to see if these are proper, historically based limitations. But I like the concept of that. I really do like the concept of that. Okay, no problem, Doruk. Right, petty Poland gets penetrated by Germany and the USSR. You have nuggies. Okay, good. Toy jet. Yeah, and it also I think it's good because it keeps you from, say, rushing through some things too fast. Meaning, if you just wanted to put, I guess, all into air power or research or something like that, and just focus on something too quickly without limitations. Okay, the were recently held in Berlin. Yes, games concluded. And I like how that they're starting some of the ministers in place at the beginning of it. I like how they're starting out with MI6 as a starting agency. I like that, with a couple of things already functional. A couple of departments, branches, whatever you want to call them, were already functional at the beginning of this. So I like that. So I'm always going to critique what I see here, meaning give my views on it, and I'm not going to always like things, but that doesn't mean I'm slamming development here. Okay, well, we're getting close to, but we're going to stick over here. Okay, 37. Now this is one I'm willing to push ahead because this will make everything else research faster. So might as well get that. I'm sort of ignoring the Navy at the moment. It's just sitting wherever it's sitting. We're building up the production ships. We got a naval rearmament, which will give me more naval production. So it's just, we're getting the mostly submarines and the historical start builds. Okay, mentioning that, we have 3 more. Let's look at another fairly heavy ship. I'm going to do a carrier or a... When is this going to be ready? July 39. Okay, we'll do one more capital ship. We'll just get that going. That's with our naval rearmament. Opens up all of these. Okay, we're going to do reinforce the empire. I think that's a good idea. Put some focus there. Oh yeah, no, and I know sometimes I have big disagreements. I definitely do, but I look at this as just as critique, not as something is all wrong. Okay, let's see about getting some from Canada here. That may be the cheapest way to get 10. I don't know. Yeah. Well, maybe the British Raj. Yeah, we get 16 for 1 there. Our cruiser submarines, okay. What was the British economy like during the interwar period? Rough at times, USA man. Nothing like Germany. I don't think it had as nearly as a bit, that was really bad. British Union of Fascists, let's see what they say. The people of East London rallied to, Cable Street. Okay, it was sort of, I guess that was something. Rallied to Cable Street and forced back the marches of the fascists of Oswald Mosley, the black shirts. Through the streets of the East End they shall not pass. Now, non-partisan is where that comes from. They shall not pass. That's what it means, I gather. I'm sure I'm butchering the Spanish. Don Parazon was the rallying call of Madrid that he rallied early in the Spanish Civil War. So them using "they shall not pass" is a call to the current Spanish Civil War at the time. The Battle of Cable Street was a major factor leading to the passage of the Public Order Act in 1936, which required police consent for political marches and forbade wearing political uniforms in public, except, of course, if you're a leftist in modern-day Britain, then you get to wear you get to wear political uniforms and march without police approval. Or apparently so, because that's currently what's happening. There were several groups that were wearing definite leftist political uniforms, and they were marching without police consent, at least not with prior approval or something. This is widely considered to be a significant factor in the BFU's political decline prior to the Second World War. Yeah, I don't know enough to say it wasn't, because there's other factors I would say, but yeah, okay. Change in fascism, 2% daily stability gain. And so I don't, I'm not an expert on the British economy during this time period, where I know a fair amount about the German, the Weimar stuff. That was bad. I know a lot about it. There were some boom times within it, but it was generally overall pretty bad. The American Depression hits a bit later, because there's actually the 1920s is the Roaring 20s, and it was roaring because it was wonderful economic times. It wasn't until FDR gets in that he just destroys the economy and creates the Great Depression. There was a depression, that's why he gets elected, but he turns it into a Great Depression. Britain, I think, is somewhere in between doing good and the American Depression at this point, but not as bad as some places. At least that's my understanding, more of an understanding than knowing. Oh yeah, no, there was a Communist Party for sure. There's a Communist Party almost everywhere. Okay, well, we've added more, so let's add another one there, and another one there. Make more armored cars, descend to... You need to kick out the Italians as quickly as possible. Maybe World War II involved countries of economics were mostly closed and focused on war and supplying the nation. Yeah, that's to some extent true. That is, especially countries like Germany and the Soviet Union were looking at autarkies, where Britain was still looking at an export economy. They still wanted to export lots of goods and resources. They were more economically integrated to other nations. It varies. Yeah, the Soviets. Hello, Joe. How you doing? The Soviet, there's a little bit about the Communist Party in Britain. During particularly the 20s, but also the 1930s, communist action was specifically not directed at, say, conservative governments like the British Conservative government or other places. It was directed at other leftist organizations, and especially communist organizations. Stalin, and through his NKVD and whatever other sort of organizations, wanted to eliminate, literally kill, Trotskyites wherever, and make sure that all of the parties, all of the organizations everywhere were loyal to the Soviet Union. So, and we can find maybe exceptions to that, like in China. Mao ends up in charge of the Communist Party in China, but only after the Long March. Prior to it, I don't know who was in charge, or I think it was more of a junta or a board of people, but Mao is really only in charge after the Long March. But the whole Chinese Communist Party is not controlled by Stalin and the Soviet Union, to the point that Stalin rather works with Chiang Kai-shek and the Nationalist, which, remember, the Nationalist Chinese is a nationalist revolutionary party. In the 20s, they're very anti-Western. By the 30s, they're realizing, we don't like all of the foreign penetration into China, but probably it's better to be friendly to the West than be revolutionary against it. So, and so Stalin's, once the Germans pull out of support of China, because in favor of, once the war really gets going with Japan and they're favoring Hitler, and the crew back in Germany favors Japan over China. Once the Germans pull out, Stalin big time sends aid, including fighter units that get put on Chinese nationalist markings, but are in essence Soviet fighter squadrons fighting the Japanese, because they're Soviet fighter planes, Soviet fighter pilots with Chinese markings, sort of because eventually they pull out because of the German invasion of the Soviet Union, and then they bring in the American Flying Tigers. So this is after the Germans leave, before the Flying Tigers come in. It's really a Russian show. Russians are selling or giving them airplanes and tanks and other material support big time, and so Stalin thinks they're stronger, sees them as sort of a revolutionary nationalist party, and the communists are not playing ball with him. So he supports the nationalist Chinese. Of course, you see in Spain, where you see the various, in which broken out the various different factions. But during the Spanish Civil War, I won't go into it now, I've talked about it before, but he's really giving material aid heavily to pro-Stalinist faction sides and starving out the non-loyalists to Stalin, meaning that, hey, Spanish revolutionary soldier or, Spanish Republican soldier, do you want to join this really well-equipped Stalinist unit? Or do you want to, those anarchists over there who don't have enough guns and don't have enough bullets for their guns, do you want to join that brigade? Whichever one, you may be an anarchist or you may be a Stalinist, because there are different factions of the communists within Spain. But which unit do you want to join? Oh, well, I'm going to join the real equipped one, but I really believe in the other guys. So once we win the war, I'll be on their side. No, well, he was trying to control them through that. So they're very much, Stalin is more worried about getting control of first the communist parties and then other radical type leftist movements. He is more worried about that than, fighting with, or trying to bring down or destabilize. We'll read what's here in the Jarrow March. I've read about this before, but it's been some time. I think it's miners or something marching. Less worried about disrupting, say, British life than he is trying to control the left in Britain. Okay. The Jarrow March of the 5th through the 30th of October 1936, also known as the Jarrow Crusade, was an organized protest against unemployment and poverty suffered in British Tyneside town of Jarrow during the 1930s. Around 200 men, crusaders, as preferred to be referred to as, marched from Jarrow to London carrying a petition to the British government requesting the re-establishment of industry in the town following the closure in 1934 of its main employer, Palmer Shipyards. The petition, okay, this is more shipyards. I was thinking this is mining. Petition was received by the House of Commons but not debated, and the march produced few results. The marchers went home believing that they had failed, despite the initial sense of failure among the marchers. In subsequent years, the Jarrow March became recognized by historians as a defining event in the 1930s. It helped foster the change in attitudes which prepared the way to social reforms measures after the Second World War, which their proponents through the thought would have improved working conditions. The town holds numerous memorials to the march reenactments, blah, blah, blah. We're not interested in the post-war whatever. Okay, yeah. We can ignore them or appease them. Factory output down by 1%, political power up, or factory output up by 1%, recruitable population down by 20%. I don't know, factory output by 1%. But recruitable population, we're low on that. I'm going to appease them this time. There was a big disagreement inside the Communist parties of the non-communist nations regarding. Yes, absolutely. FDR was a horrible president. Oh yeah, he was. Now he's now considered. Yes, I'm just trying to catch up on the chat. Hi from the ROC. Hello, Yahoo. How you doing? Yeah, the Chinese commies are. Yes. Oh yeah. No. But they. The Chinese nationalists start out, and you probably know the history better than I do, but I'm explaining to other people. The Chinese, the Chinese Revolution is Sun Yat-sen's revolution, and it's a Chinese nationalists, and they were a revolutionary group. Eventually, after Sun Yat-sen's death, Chiang Kai-shek is in charge of it. And early on in the 20s, they were a revolutionary. I didn't say communist, but they were a revolutionary movement, which included the communists. And I forget, but there was one big massacre of communists, forget the year, that then sort of prompted the start of the Communist Long March that started out like, I don't know, with like 100,000 or 200,000 communists, and there was like 10 or 20,000 of them alive left at the end. And so, but those 10 or 20,000 were diehards by that point. It was kind of like Turkey's Kemalist socialists. They were doing socialist policies on it as well at the same time being pro-nationalist and anti-communist mostly. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of, I'm saying revolutionary. Revolutionary does not mean communistical. It just means revolution. And in the Chinese sense, of course, you have with Sun Yat-sen revolting against the, the Qing, however you pronounce it, dynasty, of Henry Puyi and his, great niece or great aunt or whatever was the last empress, because it jumped over to him. But, is getting rid of the imperial system to a Chinese republic. So it is revolutionary in that sense. Hello, Areas Mafia. Once Stalinists would gain power, leftists. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they would be eliminated. Absolutely. No, he's more interested in that. Have you seen any new Stalin game? No, I've not. Weren't most of the high-ranking communist generals in China mostly warlords who converted to communism? I would say no. There were a few. Yes, the revolution of 1911. That's exactly right. 10% lived after the march. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, right. Yahoo. That's exactly my understanding. I don't remember the exact dates, but those 10%, those were the diehards, and that's why after the Long March, that's why they had so much strength, because they were a dedicated bunch. They were strong. They would made it through. It's a bit like, okay, I don't know. That's, a bit like Ash, but sorry, I'm missing Jing. Oh, the Jing, okay. Bit like she, but Jing. Trying to anglify, shall we say, some of the Chinese names are a bit difficult for me, sorry. I get what you're talking about, the last imperial family. Political advisor, domestic minister, propaganda minister. Okay, what is domestic here? Do they consider? Is socialist, conservative, minister for trade? Sometimes, let's see. What is, this is in economics. This is head of intelligence. Okay, see, interior minister is, they're looking at it sort of like head of the police. Okay, so this is domestic. So an interior or non-foreign, but not. Okay, liberal, socialist, conservative, minister for commerce. That looks good. Minister for agriculture, population. That also looks good. Conservative minister for trade is, how is this different than him? Commerce, export, trade, fuel gain, daily, research gain efficiency. Postmaster General. I didn't know they had a Postmaster General. We have one in the United States that's actually in the Constitution that we have to have a Postmaster General and a post office. Civilian factory being used up. I don't know. I don't know. These could, you could do a deep dive into all of these. I don't know what is. To prepare speed max. Vehicle factory, domestic minister cost. Consumer goods factories 2%. We'll go with that. I don't know that he's best, but we'll just go with that. It seems like a reasonably decent choice. The nationalists won in mainland China. What would have happened? Well, I think China would look much more like Taiwan. Now, Taiwan being a limited country, you're able to do things much more modern than having to try to modernize all of China. So it probably wouldn't has been as good a success as Taiwan has been, but would have been a better and much earlier success than the communists for sure. And you wouldn't have had the Cultural Revolution, which does its best to both destroy China and destroy Chinese culture. So yeah, that was a bad thing. Didn't Mao abandon his children? I don't know about abandoning children. Yeah, it's a new thing. Basically, your ministers can be picked like that. Well, I like the idea of ministerial slots. You know, like a war minister and a foreign minister and a intel minister and a internal security minister. I like this better than just generic put in a few things. I like this a lot better. And I made a mod that's no longer functional with modern stuff for this. I only really got to doing some of the majors in filling this out. But it very much along this idea of things. One of my abandoned mods. Well, we're going to end the episode here. Not the live stream, but we're going to end the episode. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And, of course, see you next time for more Hearts of Iron.